to satisfy my soul. The 10 Cadillacs with diamond mill, 10 suits of clothing, chick dressed to kill. My 10 houses and K-Count barbecue. If the chick's not on the point, then throw me smack dab in the middle. Do rock me smack dab in the middle. Rock me smack dab in the middle. And let me rock and roll to satisfy my soul. 100 bands with go-go girls, street that's big, and natural pearl, a wagon road. The boy up the doors to board, not the sand from me. Smack dab. It's me. Smack dab in the middle, and let me rock and roll to satisfy me. Then Shake. Around. Lover, I sent for me, I sent for me. Don't ever want any other. I sent for me, sent for me. I'll be true. I sent for me, sent for me. Anytime you got it wrong. Morning, don't hurt if you're not in trouble. Don't worry, just depend on your friend. And send for me, send for me. I'm already doing the night and in the early bright. Now don't you fret, my pretty pet, I'm gonna treat you right. Don't you dare, I'll raise a hand. Gonna share everything, anywhere. Oh yeah, I stand for me, and I'll be there. you. I stand for me, stand for me. Now I'll be there to protect you. Just wait and see, wait and see. Don't delay, right away. I stand for me, 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 stand for me. Stand for me.
She got a killer pair of hazel eyes, pretty as you please. She got a killer pair of hazel eyes that you can't believe. She walks in the room, it's like it's on the breeze. Everybody else, Channeling, Channeling. She's a blossom on the beat. Channeling, Channeling. She's a flower on the weed. Boys are making it, I love them never push. Tell me what you need, Genevieve. Genevieve, Genevieve. She's a blossom on the beat. Genevieve, Genevieve. She's a flower on the weed. Boys are making it, the rocket never puts. Tell me what you need, Genevieve. Right.
You made me cry. Sure have got me now. I see back in the town. Now, honey, there's a little bell that nights didn't last so long. I didn't have a little bell of days that last so long. I'm going back to the city where the rock and roll all night long. Back to the city and back to the streets. Back to the city. Roger, never show have done.
Well, I think it was just the straw that broke the camel's back on the shovel in the snow. But it's probably very never. They've been doing $18 million in revenue. Yeah. Ended up having to cut off.
Well, it's not to live and show I don't make it. Well, it's not to live and show I don't make it. I want that to see when I'm just working.
Why don't you dance here?
I'll put it online.
On YouTube?
One of the great
Awesome.
things about living
for
in
it.
Kensington
Okay,
is hearing
thanks.
that sound. That train whistle. I go other places and I hear a train whistle, I go right to sleep. It's kind of like rain on the roof. You gotta get rid of the reverb on this. Right now it's an incredible pleasure for me to present this gentleman to the Kensington audience. He is from Silver Spring, but we're not going to hold that against him. So, this is something that we've been talking about. I started reading George Pelecanos books quite a number of years ago, and I kept reading about Bill Kirchin or the Quarry House or different local places. These guys were riding up Georgia Avenue in a Camaro doing bong hits on their way to Hunters. And I said, I know this guy wants to know about the Nighthawks. And finally, late one night, I'm in a hotel room, and I'm just finishing up, I think it's Hell to Pay. And right at the very end, these guys go into the bar and they put on a Nighthawks cassette of Jackson King's and start talking about seeing the Nighthawks at the psychedelic. It's 4 in the morning, my compadres are all sleeping, there's no one I can call, and I'm jumping up and down in the room by myself. I'm in a George Pelecanos book. Anyway, this is a great moment. We're going to try and pull this off. This is kind of like beatniks and poetry, 2011 Kensington style. So put your hands together, will you please, for Mr. George Pelecanos.
Thank you all for coming. I wouldn't have missed this. I'm very honored to be up here with these guys. And actually, I just finished I've been living in New Orleans all winter working on the show, and I told them when I took the job that I had to be back this weekend no matter what. And so here I am. The other night I met a young man who goes to Northwood High School, my alma mater, and he was telling me that when I was at Northwood, we were the Northwood Indians, if you remember that. And so when they changed the name, they considered two name changes, and one of them was the Gladiators. The other one was the Nighthawks. And why didn't they do that? You know what I mean? Just trademark infringement, but anyway. So we're going to try something here. This is from my upcoming book, The Cut. It's the first time I've read from it. It comes out in August. And when we're done, when we're all done, I think we're going to go across the street, and I'll sign any books you brought. I'm not selling books today, but if you brought a book, I'll sign it. And the Nighthawks are selling T-shirts and stuff like that, CDs. So big blow down. Thank you. Here we go. This is this character is a guy named Spiro Lucas. He's Greek by adoption, and he's come back from Iraq, Fallujah. And like many of these guys, he gets a job. He don't want to work an office job. He gets a job working for one of the attorneys downtown, doing investigative work. And he also takes side jobs where he takes a percentage of what he finds. Hence the title, The Cut. But the original title of this book was A Walk in the Night, and you will see why in a minute. And he likes to bike around town. He likes to take walks at night. And he's just woken up from a dream about his deceased father, which is a little bit prophetic. And he decides to go for a walk. He lives at 16th Street Heights. And he heads towards the stadiums. And I always try to experience what I'm writing about. So I took this walk myself one night, and I ended up on the cross Fort Stevens at night. I ended up on the side lot of the Emory Methodist Church on Georgia, which is just a block away from the 4th District Police Station. But it's a good place to kill a person because the parking lot is elevated and you can't see down in Georgia, and the people in Georgia can't see up what's going on in the lot at night. And as Hitchcock once said, it's very hard to kill a man. We'll see where this goes. Unbeknownst to him, there's somebody following him. And it's a kind of creepy guy, wears a wooden cross with a crucifix out on his shirt. Sort of like strolling off in the wall. Anyway, here we go. Lucas stood. He felt like having a beer, but he didn't want to drink alone. The bar up in Georgia was as good as any. He brushed his teeth, washed his face, and came back out to the living room. He reached for the keys to his Jeep, but picked up only his house key instead. It was a nice night. He decided to walk. Lucas walked north on Piney Branch Road. It was not the same thoroughfare known by commuters, but more like the urban alley version of a country lane. You could hear cars moving to the west of him on 16th Street. It was quiet back here tonight. A big engine moved somewhere behind him, and he turned his head and saw a flash of a black vehicle on a cross street, and he kept moving his feet. He crossed Gallatin and then Hamilton, and they arrived right on the wide and majestic Colorado Avenue, headed northeast. Then he was in a small commercial district in 14th and Colorado. He walked by the Golden Corner Grocery, where he also bought beer, Louis' Barber Shop, Colorado Cafe, Florescen's Beauty Salon, and the Ethiopian market called the Fetus. He He didn't have to look to recognize the business names because he knew them by heart. Many people, mostly black and Hispanics, were out. He walked by the beautifully maintained Longfellow apartments with their center screen porches and iron balconies. And a man who smelled of alcohol walked towards him and said, "Hola." And Lucas said, "Hola, ¿cómo está?" because that was nearly all the Spanish he knew. At 13th Street, he walked due north and crossed at the Missouri Avenue light. He approached Quackenbow Street, where he cut right as he often did, and began to walk across the dark, weeded field toward Stevens Park. To his left stood the historic fort, the trenches, ammunition bunkers, cannons, and flagpole. He stayed to the field and arrived at a gravel driveway that led up to the parking lot that sat between the Methodist church and a 4-square colonial with a wraparound porch, which was also church property and unlit behind its windows. Lucas often cut through the lot and ascended the steep concrete steps that dropped down to George Avenue. He passed a bucket truck and construction materials and went up a rise and came to the lot, lit faintly by a lamp hung on the side of the stone church. In the lot stood a man. Lucas stopped 50 feet shy of the man and studied him. His face seemed flat and his eyes were set wide. His skin in spots was devoid of color. His hair was lank. He wore jeans and a t-shirt rolled up at the sleeves to show thickly veined biceps. He was a small man, but he was strong and wired tight. Lucas walked towards him. The lot, empty of cars, was so greatly elevated that it was not visible from the heavily trafficked George Avenue. Behind them was the darkness of the field. The man must have spied Lucas walking into the park and correctly surmised that there was but one way to the avenue. He had left his vehicle down at Jordan, taken the steps up and waited for him there. He did not look like he'd come to talk. "What is this?" said Lucas, approaching the man. The man said nothing, and as Lucas neared him, he reached into his left-hand pocket and produced a knife. With a jerk of his wrist, a 6-inch shaving blade swung on his stone hip. He held it loosely and correctly, palm up. Now Lucas was just a couple of yards away from the man. They stood in the center of the lot. It was like a basketball court where they had come to jump for possession, or the center circle of a wrestling match. "Do you know your Bible?" said the man. Lucas did not answer. He stayed focused on the man's sleepless eyes. John 11:10. "But if a man walk in the night, he stumbleth, because there is no light in him." "Not this man," said Lucas. They moved at the same time. The man swung the knife and Lucas stepped out of it and back. He swung again. His reach was not sufficient. Lucas knew that he would have to come in. The man flipped the knife, switched it to a down grip, and he brought it across from his right shoulder as if he were swinging it back. He caught on the air, brought the blade back to the other direction, and swung with a grunt, and it took him too far. Lucas stepped to the side and came in quickly. He grabbed the man's wrist and whipped his open palm with a hammer blow to the knife arm's elbow. The man's hand opened like a stunned flower, sending the knife skittering across the asphalt. Lucas pushed him away. The man looked at the knife 10 feet from his reach. He thought about it, and Lucas said, "You had your chance."
Love that so much. It's really hard to
So what do they got a little bit more? That's how I initially identified.
We're going to take a very short break. We're going to play a little bit more for you.